Good Friday morning, everyone, and thanks for checking in to the TDR Trade to Black podcast. Good to see you. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Hope everyone had a great week. Which day is it going to be? One day we had American companies that ripped, followed by Canadian companies. We got Dan, the chart man, to come in and look at all these interesting charts. Canopy, what a week it's been, as well as some big news here this morning regarding Germany, Tilray, Canopy, Cureleaf. Those companies stem to benefit based on the latest news. So we're going to jump into that. So let's welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varell. Happy Friday. And man, these stocks, they have got some volume and some interest for sure right now.
They're moving. They're beneficiaries of liquidity and and plumbing. I wasn't saying it for my own health when I said the Canadian companies would run hard and fast once we started to get some momentum, and they seem to be doing just that.
The volume on the Canadian side, wow, it is big right now. But like you said, it's their senior exchanges, right?
NASDAQ and NYSE enable you to do that.
Yep.
Canopy's up 100% from last Friday.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, granted, like full disclosure, like I bought calls in Canopy after the 30% move on Friday of last week. And I mean, Canopy is cranking right now. The RSI is getting hot. It's at about 80. And I mean, 100% runs. It's testing a decent number here, but it's up another 30% today.
All as well as Canopy. Yeah. Let's welcome in Guap. Happy Friday. How are you, sir? Good to see you. You following this closely, as Anthony said?
V Gates, Hairdales, big news out of Germany. I'm excited to get into the news. Yeah, I follow some charts, but it's more curiosity. I'm definitely looking forward to talking to Dan today because it's been a real fun week in Stockland.
I know. It's like, what side of the border do you pick on? So let's jump into it. We'll get into Dan in just a moment, in a little bit. But thanks, everybody, for checking in here on a Friday morning. TDR Trade to Black podcast with Guap and Anthony Varell. As we jump into the wire, basically outlining the biggest headlines in cannabis. And first, let's begin with everyone's favorite stock on this YouTube channel, which is SNDL, who reported full year 2023 and fourth quarter 2023 financial earnings yesterday. Some of the highlights, Anthony, included $909 million in 2023 compared to $712 million in 2022, an increase of 28%. Net revenue for the fourth quarter of 2023 was $248.5 million compared to $240 million in the fourth quarter of 2022, an increase of 3% with sequential growth in the cannabis retail and cannabis operations segment. So if you are an SNDL investor after these latest numbers, what are you thinking here today?
I think it's great. Zach's righted the ship. They're approaching $1 billion Canadian in annualized run rate. Their margins are increasing. Their free cash flow at the end of the year, Q3 and Q4, was starting to generate. I mean, SNDL right now is the largest distributor of cannabis and alcohol in Canada. They've got the lion's share of Nova. There's a lot to like. I mean, we think about alcohol and cannabis being paired from a platform perspective in the United States. The businesses are analogous. There's a lot of similarities. Zach, in his interview last night on BNN, justified the Alcanna acquisition as they were buying sophisticated human capital that knew how to operate and knew how to run businesses in a highly regulated CPG space from a distribution and a retail perspective. And that's paying off. I mean, I looked at their earnings and kind of scoffed, to be completely honest. I was like, oh, they've got 60% alcohol revenue within the business. It's probably going to be a good bet that'll pay off long term. And they're coming into the United States with Sunstream. Parallels and MSO that they're in the process of taking over. Skyman as well. Granted, both enterprises are financially and not in ruins, but handicapped right now. But I think they also have $776 million in cash and marketable securities. So they've got some room to play. They've got some capital to deploy. And I mean, overall, I think it's positive, the fiscal year as well as the Q. And I'm curious to see where we're at this time next year in the SNDL story, as I think they're going to continue to exhibit growth.
Yeah, I think the always interesting thing about a company that succeeds is understanding pathway to revenue. And as these companies continue to generate more and more revenue, I think Zach did an incredible job in that interview, as you outlined briefly, but he's definitely steering this company in the right direction. But more importantly, when we look at, the assets in the US and becoming a dominant player on the retail side on the Canadian level, along with High Tide. You understand pathway to revenue. And if anyone understands your story and you're generating, like I said, over $900 million in revenue, that's probably 90% of what you need to basically do to attract investor interest, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where it goes. I mean, you've got Raj from High Tide. You've also got SNDL. They're really banking on this disruptive discount model as it relates to the sale of cannabis. It's working right now to scale revenue, but I mean, your margin is going to be very hard to capture in that business as well as maintain. I mean, I think SNDL's gross profit margin was around 25%. Curaleaf, Trulieve, GTI, Verano, their gross profit margins are around 50%.
Yeah.
That's a much more attractive business. They'll get there. I think this time next year, Zach's got a formidable presence in the United States via the Sunstream assets and the capital allocation there. And like I said, I mean, they're disrupting things, that they're growing. I don't think there's anything really not to like about the story right now.
Guap, no shortage of interest online with this company, SNDL, right?
Yeah, the shareholders are very passionate. Some of them are pretty knowledgeable about the company as well. For me, it's all about which way, if you have full confidence in the management team and how the numbers as well as the strategy is trending. So it's important to look at the second half of SNDL. I believe more companies should change their names of their companies to their ticker. That would really help out with awareness. Just kidding. But I mean, it's an interesting story and it's a complex one. And I think that's why people in the sector like Anthony like following it, because it's got a lot of moving parts. And it's I mean, if you had asked me 1-2 years ago about where I thought the company was going, I could not have anticipated where they've ended up. So it's impressive, but still a long ways to go.
These Canadian stocks, though, as you said off the top, Anthony, they are ripping. Anthony Gambino says, let the LP rip. Seth Jacobs, SNDL, my dark horse of 2024. And our good friend, where would this podcast be without Jordan Wyant? Always here to comment on SNDL every day. Having the alcohol and cannabis businesses together saves on the back of costs. Plus, the liquor business is constantly improving margins. Yep, I see that. What were you going to say, Anthony?
I was going to say, I mean, I think he's got a lot of good points. I don't know if I would be as boisterous to say that U.S. operators are lucky to be operating in a lot of uncompetitive markets.
Yeah.
Those medical markets that are limited license states that they're competing in are still pretty damn competitive.
Yeah.
Granted, you obviously have a walled garden as far as new entrants into the space, but they'll start to get saturated as time goes on, as we see markets mature and flip to adult use.
Yep. Our good friend Kevin Hawthorne, good morning from Lakeland, Florida. Good to hear you, my friend. I'm sure the weather is a little bit better from where I am, but go Detroit Tigers if you're a baseball fan. Home, Lakeland, Florida, of the spring-training Detroit Tigers. This is the TDR Traded Black podcast. As usual, for everybody that's watching, make sure to smash that like button, leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. The more likes, more comments, the greater chances this can go viral, as we want to build this community and get the cannabis investor message out to the mainstream audience. All right, into the wire segment, topic number 2. Cannabis investors, Guap, if they're following the Germany market, they got the news they wanted to hear this morning, where the country approved partial legalization of cannabis on April 1st. So break down some key takeaways on understanding what this announcement confirmed.
For sure. Yeah. I'd first like to say Herzlichen Glückwunsch Deutschland. Congrats. I mean, we've been following this story for a while now. We were reporting that Bundesrat, the state representative, the state represented part of the government, could hold this up and send it to mediation with a vote today. They actually worked it out in the background. So the Bundestag and the Bundesrat worked it out. No mediation process, no delays. So this is going to go on just as we hoped. So a few takeaways from the story we put out on the Dales report, which everyone should go read. So for the people of Germany, they can actually carry around up to 25 grams, almost an ounce. Starting on April 1st, you can cultivate 3 plants. You can store up to 50 grams. And cannabis clubs are expected to open up on July 1st. You can only join one cannabis club. It's kind of like buying into almost like a farm share. They're going to grow it and distribute it to the 500 people club. So far, that's pillar one. Everyone's waiting for pillar two. Pillar two is rec sales. That's where some of the other players can get involved. But pillar one, as we covered with the interview with Pablo, can be really nice for players like Curaleaf and others that have exposure to Germany, because just if 1% of the population gets their medical card, that's a $1 billion medical market right there. There's 80 million people in Germany. And that's doable. What, it's 3% in Florida, Anthony? Is the
3.5.
Yeah,
3.5 is the penetration rate for medical in Florida.
It's possible. And the reason that Pablo and others are so bullish on that number increasing from the small medical program today is that by passing this law, the doctors can prescribe cannabis without fear of as much repercussions. So it's definitely bullish for Germany. And like we said when we covered it before, this is a big domino. Everyone in Europe watches what Germany's doing. So this is just another way to sort of move the whole story forward.
Yeah.
One more thing to say in German to the Germans, though. Erdlingen Sie solle zu schnell, sonst sind sie wie the New Yorker cannabis program, which is essentially get pillar two done quickly, or you're going to end up kind of like a watered down version of New York's cannabis program.
That's exactly what I thought.
Gotta get it done. Celebrate today, but keep pushing.
Yeah. Agatha Abdel writes, good for MediPharm Labs. Now there's a name I have not heard in quite some time.
Not heard that name in a very long time.
Long time. But notable names, obviously, that are doing well this week and probably will benefit from this news. Canopy being one, Tilray being another, Curaleaf, as we keep talking about. They clearly have a very aggressive expanding, especially with that acquisition this week. A very aggressive German game plan. But yes, Canopy, Tilray, there's probably a few others, Organigram, Aurora Cannabis, a lot of Canadian players that have a position in the German market. As you said as well, Guap, our head of research and lead financial writer, Bill McNarlin, wrote a story this morning. It's titled, I have it down here. But anyways, it's basically our German story, but he outlines some 3 key takeaways. So if you want to find out more about that information and what this announcement means and what you can anticipate next, log on to thedalesreport.com. All right, let's swing it back into North America and everyone's favorite topic, especially Anthony's. Let's talk about safer banking. Interesting news where now Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is showing support for this bill. Anthony, this is a big name, big title. Why is this an important one to have that kind of influence pertaining to this bill? And what can we anticipate? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is nothing new. She's said this before in favor of the Safe Banking Act. It's just the fact that the conversation continues to happen. If they weren't talking about cannabis in Washington on a weekly basis, I'd start to get worried. If we had no senators, the vice president, the secretary of the Treasury, David Joyce from Ohio, who is big in bringing adult use to the state of Ohio, if these people weren't talking about cannabis, we would all be pretty on pins and needles right now. But I mean, the conversation continues to happen. David Joyce asked her about it. She says it solves the needs for the businesses. It makes sense. So now, I'm usually going to sit here and say, it's time for Chuck to go get this done.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got guys on the other side of the aisle. He's got other heads of the government that are in favor. I mean, it's really time to get this done now that the spending bill is out of the way. He's got support. He's got bipartisan support. And if Republicans want to front run Biden on any sort of rescheduling announcement, go get SAFE done. You can then claim that you had a win in the cannabis space.
Agreed.
It's a bipartisan win for everybody.
Let me ask you guys this. Take a step back. You talked about having ongoing conversations is an important one. Of course it is. When you look at what's transpired over the last couple of weeks, is this the most dialogue that you guys have seen pertaining to this industry in Washington from how many years that you've been following this space, Guap?
For sure. Yeah, you got to separate the signal from the noise here. I mean, politicians can have public-facing opinions as well as private ones. The signal for me is just count the number of times people in DC have said the word cannabis. Don't listen so much to the words. You know, Kamala said we got to legalize cannabis in a back room at the end of a roundtable. We're reading into the tea leaves too much, trying to think if it's bullish or bearish. It's more the fact that they're saying cannabis a lot that matters. Right?
I know.
So,
Yeah.
you know, Yellen, this is the Treasury Secretary, former chairwoman of the FOMC. Watching her brought me back to watching press conferences that she stumbled through when she was in that position. She said this before. This isn't new. This is the highest, sort of like one of the highest thought leaders on financial policy in the U.S. saying we need safe banking, and she's familiar with the issue. Like, come on, get it done.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple conversations with Don Murphy. He's busy this morning. We were going to try to get him on, but he had some interesting conversations with both Secretary Becerra, I thought Ed Blumenauer. Was that not incredible?
We're gonna play a clip later. Yeah, he was on fire.
Yeah, it was in a lot of ways just saying, "Jeeper, get your shit together. Enough is enough." But, you know, clearly it's good. It was just common sense. I think he spoke on behalf of the entire industry.
Absolutely.
And we were like, amen. It's about time. But the response, I thought people just sat there quietly and listened closely. And there wasn't really much of a response that made me believe that, hey, they're listening. And this is a topic of conversation. But think about this. In the last 2 weeks, a president, a vice president, Congress talking about this, the head of the HHS, which, you know, again, my opinion, looked a little unorganized, but regardless, the topic was brought up. But you've got the head of the HHS, Ed Blumenauer's statement. You've got Don working his butt off, getting through to a lot of people. And then you got the VP and president and a roundtable discussion. That's the reason why I bring this up, is because there's so much dialogue that's occurred in the last 2 weeks. So it begs the question. I'll ask you both, you guys, on the spot. Here we go. Rescheduling. Anthony, does it happen in April?
I have no idea.
Doesn't want to put his neck on the line.
I
Guap,
will.
what do you think?
Yeah, we have to keep in mind this decision is going to come down, and then there's a comment period, and then there's legal challenges, and then it goes into law, right? I hate to put that in perspective, but this doesn't just fix everything overnight, right? The custody compliance uplisting thing, that's still months away if we get the decision today, which, you know, Don suggested could happen because it's ahead of a recess. So anyone who's tried to predict what politicians will do and when have been wrong. So why would we start that?
Yeah. I know your point, and real quick, Mitch, I know we wanted to bring up that clip. Are we bringing that up now, or is that towards the last segment?
I want to, yeah. A little bit later for sure.
All right. I know there's a few people asking, what the hell is this? Where's Dan the Chart Man? He's coming on in just a moment. This is Into the Wire, presented by Buckley's Cough Medicine, the official cough medicine of Anthony Varel, here on a Friday morning. How you feeling, brother? You battling that cold? You feel all right? He's giving me the look like I'm going to smack you.
Yeah, I got a cough. I've been sick all week.
All good, brother. This is Into the Wire, and that concludes. And as well, don't forget, smash that like button, leave some comments below. And as well, April 10th, Wednesday, we said it in our podcast earlier this week, we're going to Washington to meet with Don Murphy. So again, please leave those messages. Let us know some questions that you want us to ask. We came up with a list yesterday in our strategy call, and I think you guys might like this, but here are some of the names that we plan to go after. I think this is actually a pretty good list. Ready? Ed Blumenauer, Elizabeth Warren, Matt Gaetz, Dave Joyce, Steve Daines, Cory Booker, Nancy Mace, and then our good friend of the podcast, CEO of Cresco Labs, Charlie Bachtol, will be there as well. There's going to be some NFL athletes there too. So Don has expressed to us that he hopes to get us in front of them too. So sounds like a good Wednesday for us to go.
We got to add Nancy Pelosi to that list. Got to ask her if she's been buying calls on MSOS. If she has, then
yesterday, at the end of the day,
shit is happening. If Nancy's loading up on Canadian LPs and MSOs.
Dude, if you can pull that off, it'll be incredible. But I have a good feeling it'll probably be the one and only time we'll be allowed at Capitol Hill in Washington. But I give you all the credit.
Yeah.
All right.
Pelosi Capital outperforms. Pelosi Capital is actually the only person that outperforms Shardy B. If you look at her tweets.
Can you imagine, Anthony? This just in. Nancy Pelosi is up 77%. And we'll have all the latest.
Those are rookie numbers. Nancy gains are like 1,000% and up.
That's true. That's true.
You got to pump those numbers up.
That's quite the salary she makes. Man, She should host her own YouTube channel on how to get rich. How to get rich in 3 days. This concludes Into the Wire, headline the biggest headlines in cannabis. Now, segue into segment number 2. It's Friday. Let's talk charts. It's that time of the week. Charts with Dan the Chart Man. Mitch, cue up the music. All right, let's welcome in. He's got the greatest hair in cannabis. Dan, the Chart Man. Good to see you, sir. What a week it's been. I don't know what to pick. One day it's American companies that are ripping. The next day it's cannabis companies. But interesting week to say the least. No shortage of interest this week from what you saw, I assume.
Yeah, there's a pattern emerging where it's, Canadian one day and US the other day. And obviously today is Canada Day, and a lot of follow through. And as you've mentioned, the fact that they're higher listed, that's the other thing. Is it because they're Canadian companies, or is it because they're just higher listed on the exchanges that allow for liquidity? And, it's just, I use myself as an example as one professional trader. I see that volume of volatility. I'm actively trading those names with a lot of capital. And I know it's just me magnified by 10,000, 50, 100,000, however many people. And so it's just like a light, moths going to the light where there's volume and volatility. And I just know personally, in the last 3 days, the amount of money that I've been trading these Canadian names with in and out, market buys, I just can't do that in the US sector right now.
Yeah, that is Cannabis 101 when it comes to the investor side, right? It's Canadian companies that trade under proxy and headline news. And that's what we got this morning, news out of Germany. But even before that, let's focus on our first company, CGC Canopy. What a week it's been. They're moving quite a bit, as Anthony pointed out at the top. What a big 7-day swing that this company is basically performing this week. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, just a massive breakout. And again, if you're an investor, you don't really care about the day to day. But if you're a trader, these little observations, 17 minutes into the day, we have not seen US and Canadian names run together the same day. CGC is saying it's Canadian Day. And from that point forward, it's up, 12%, and MSOS is down 4% from that point. And so these little observations can help us know where to look. And, we've talked in the past about, I was dogging Tilray and CGC every video. And by the way, the analytics are up nicely. Last weekend video, highest views in, 3 or 4 months. So as you keep imploring your audience, click the buttons, click the share, get the likes, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy as far as getting eyes and attention. But it's the kind of thing where when the bulls show up, we know there's so many shorts. Again, I don't even have to look at short interest. If you have a chart like this, there's a lot of shorts on your name, and you get the volume that puts them in a squeeze. And we can go back and see that this has happened many times. Just know that the bears are salivating for their re-entries. And the only way that this is going to be different is if there's the headline, because if there's not a headline and, we're looking a month, 6 weeks from now, it's going to do the same fade. Eventually we'll hit the climax top. Everybody that's going to buy, every short that's going to be squeezed will have done so, and we will fade, and we'll have a pullback, unless the fireworks would be if you tack a headline into this momentum. So just be aware that we can easily pull back 30% plus from whenever we hit a top, but clearly there's no top in just yet. As far as the structure on the longer term charts, we need to confirm a daily uptrend eventually. We got to confirm a weekly uptrend. Again, we just have 2 examples in the recent past where it's short squeeze, give it all back, mini squeeze, give it all back. So we need something that tells us this time is different. We can certainly say the volume's better this time, but more is needed. Once we top out, follow through from there.
Dan, is this something you've seen before? Like, are you surprised at all to see so much focus on, say, in just a 1-day span, Canadian to American to Canadian to American, back and forth the whole week?
It's a little bit more prominent as far as being obvious. The times in the past, they would do things together. Maybe CGC is up 10%, but MSOS would be up 4%, 5% or whatever. And this is just more distinct because the colors are different. It's inverse almost to a certain degree. And so just keeping an eye on that relationship and how it develops. But one day to the next, if you're a trader, you got to know which am I looking at today?
Yeah. Midnight writes, don't forget Tilray. That's what we're going to bring up next. When you bring up Canopy, obviously a company attached to the hip with Canopy is always Tilray. So what are you seeing?
Same thing, just a smaller version today. And I longed Tilray on the $2 break this morning, just anticipating the Germany headline and just liking how tight it was. We're really tight right under resistance. All we had to do was break 202 and 204 to keep the party going. So,
yeah,
make an entry, scale out some, and now I've got a swing sized position where if the bulls hold strong into the end of the day, if we close near the high, then I will swing some for the potential that headlines, that we get attention. If we close strong, we got a whole weekend of buzz to build and people to get excited about it. But, we still got another 4 hours left in the day before I'm going to make that decision. And bigger picture, it's all about 254. Got to get over that level. The one difference between Canopy and Tilray is there is a clear base of support that we are moving off of here. We've defended it now 3 times, and it's 160 is the upper end of that level. And so what I'm watching is this, just big move up, smaller move. And now if we can't break 254, we're just going to keep tightening up. And so it's all about 254 from here.
This is a visual, Anthony, as you said before, when you look at these charts, it's like everything trading on a proxy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's liquidity. It's liquidity and it's access.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these stocks have access. Canopy's what? Canopy's traded almost $100 million a stock today.
Yeah, Tilray's 90 million.
Yeah.
That's all retail guys, right?
Yeah, that's all retail. Retail's piling into those names. When you've got people still buying these stocks when they're up this amount on the day, like, it's real buying.
Yeah. All right, let's now jump into the American companies south of the border. Verano Holdings looks like the selling off from the earnings report from a couple weeks ago is now done as new buyers are entering in. So stock really ripped yesterday. What are we seeing today?
So we did confirm a daily uptrend. That's a good sign. Our daily higher low support that the bulls must maintain is 497 from here. But anytime you change a trend on one time frame, zoom out. So daily uptrend confirmed. We zoom out to the weekly and we say, okay, well, it's possible that if we fail 708, then we're just going to tighten up within this range for a long, potentially a long time. Again, in the absence of a real catalyst headline, it could very easily be, 3-4 weeks from now and still be within this range. So bigger picture, all we care about is 405 and 708. That's a very wide percentage range. So again, when you have volatility in both directions, this significantly, I scout what I call an equilibrium, which is just that. It's the most common pattern in trading on any time frame. If you got volatility, you scout the tightening range, and that helps you know the direction to be looking in when you're looking for that to tighten up.
Duly noted. Next up, Cureleaf. Big winner today based on the Germany news. How's it performing?
All right. The gaps, I just don't like gaps on these OTC names. We talked about it with the Trulieve top, months ago or whatever it was. Again, it's not organic in the sense that it's not pre-market volume that's dictating where we open. At least with Canopy, there's millions of dollars potentially trading pre-market that are shaping supply and demand. With these OTC names, it's market makers saying, man, let's open it here. And, I just do not like gap up opens in these OTC names. And, I'm looking back here and trying to find a gap up open where we followed through in, it's just, even on this run, the HHS original run here, there's your gap up. And granted, it was very minimal, but that's your only, pullback day of the entire move up is the day that it and the top, the 2 days that it gapped up are the 2 days that, that it's a little bit of a red flag on the OTC. Not every single time, but more often than not, right? We're probabilities. That's what we care about. Yeah. So same thing, daily higher or low is 475. Most important support from here. If we do not break 580, again, this is just a tightening range that we can remain within for another bunch of weeks. So it's all about that double top, 580, 579. It's what we call, a level you can see from space, because anybody that has a chart knows that that's the most important level. Bears are going to defend it. Bulls are going to try and break it. And so the next 2 weeks is going to be really key with, whether we break that level or tighten up.
Interesting. Finally, let's bring up Advisor Shares ETF MSOS. A week ago, you talked about getting support at 815, needs to close above 855, which it did, which segued into a lot of momentum for the week. And we've seen that throughout this week. So it'll be interesting to see how this performs going into the close today, which will obviously dictate momentum going into next week, as you've indicated in the past. But what are you seeing?
So yeah, we had a nice little bull flag there. And what was ideal about this consolidation, posted yesterday on Twitter, this is ideal consolidation right now. Declining bear volume, very minimal. We break there was a little base there at 895, 897. We broke it on Wednesday with no follow through really. And, that move yesterday showed up and everybody's, if you're retail, if you're like only paying attention half paying attention. You look at yesterday's move and you say, what's going on? Oh, there's news, FDA. And, I, as a full-time trader, look at that and say, no, that's not the news. We got that news at 7 a.m. We were bearish and red for 4 hours on the morning. If it's a news reaction, the market starts pricing it in instantly. There's not a 4-hour delay. And so, you had some options volume start pouring in about, $1.2 million on November $20 calls started coming in at 3:30 p.m. yesterday. This move started at 3, so it was a little, into that move, but that definitely has an impact. That's a decent enough, it stands out because there's nothing really going on options that far out, and this now is a glaring standout. But again, you can't make too many assumptions. People are like, oh, someone's making a big bet. Well, maybe they have a huge short on and they're just hedging it. We can't make that assumption. So just be aware, there's someone sold those calls as well. So bigger picture, same thing. Daily higher low 877 is a must hold level. Again, the weekly chart, it is entirely possible that we fail the recent high of 1064. And if that happens, we can tighten up.
One last chart, actually, Mitch just told me is a really good looking chart. IIPR, real estate side of cannabis, but this is looking good from what Mitch has told me. Yeah,
healthy consolidation there. Again, when you confirm, well, we didn't even confirm a daily downtrend. We held up. So just tightening sideways and, establishing. Essentially what's going on here is you get an earnings reaction, move up, some price discovery, and then this is that price discovery taking shape. It's just the balance of supply and demand and finding a fair value that the market says, yeah, this is a good price. And then, all right, once we've got that really tight sideways range, we're either going to break bear or break bull. And obviously the clear bull break, 103.23 is the recent high. We broke it today, but with no follow through. So that's still a resistance level to be keeping an eye on. And if we can clear that level, 105.67, 112.60, definitely a name that has been performing pretty well overall. Again, it's got more, it's on the NYSE. It's got more volume. Well, let's see here, 30 something million. Yeah. So it's got a lot more volume than these other names.
Last one. And I know I said last one, but I just want to keep the SNDL viewers happy. Stock's up 17% today. Brett Sloan writes, how's the chart looking? 9 million shares traded so far.
Yeah. Real nice recovery from the profit taking on the earnings reaction. 171, big test right now. And why is that a big test? Because that's the highest level that we've seen in the last 5 months or so. So obviously clearing that level would be a good sign. And we just did by a penny. So see if we can get follow through. And again, so is SNDL, are they US? You tell me.
Canadian company that has a big US footprint. Trade on the NASDAQ, obviously. But they just go ahead, Anthony. What were you going to say?
It's a Canadian LP. I mean, they don't have any direct US exposure yet. I mean, they basically got a fund that's invested in a bunch of U.S. assets, which those assets right now are getting streamlined into their, business model. I mean, they've got formidable exposure to the U.S., but the 909 million in revenue they just posted is all from Canada.
Yeah. I was just curious to which side is it on? Is it because it's uplisted or it's a U.S. name? But with these names, right? Go ahead.
They were a meme stock. They raised about $1 billion off of a meme stock short squeeze when AMC and GME were going on. So they were right place, right time, and it was on fire during the whole meme stock craze.
Alcohol and cannabis, Dan. They got big dollars in alcohol too, with some healthy margins. But what were you going to say?
Just a quick note for people, watching these Canadian names and maybe wanting to chase. I know a lot of traders like, I missed it. I had 20,000 shares of CGC yesterday that I wish I held on to. But right now we have a stair step pattern on these names, 15-minute time frame, which just means every single candle is a higher low. When that breaks, we see 15-minute consolidation. And, really aggressive bulls are going to be scouting entries on 15-minute consolidation, hoping that we close strong and that it follows through a bit into next week. If you want to be patient, you're waiting for an hourly higher low. You might not get it today, but determine if you're aggressive or patient, and that helps determine what time frame you're focused on for a consolidation entry.
Cannabis at 6:15 right now, which is pretty amazing considering where it was last Friday.
Even earlier this week. Wow. I got to ask you, Dan. I know you like to obviously focus on stuff in the immediate term, but if we do get a rescheduling announcement here in the near future, do you have any kind of idea? You can't really predict the future, but any idea in how you think this market will perform? Like over a certain, like yes, stocks will rip in the short term, but historically, we've never seen anything like this. Looking back at when legalization happened in Canada, actually, if my memory serves me correctly, I think there was a sell-off when the actual date did happen, but. What are you anticipating on how the market will perform over a couple of weeks, month when that announcement does make? Have you given it much thought?
Yeah, so I will hold a swing position that will attempt to benefit bigger picture, and I like holding into election. Going back 13 years, that was my play. Like I buy at the end of the summer, I hold into the election and the vote hype. So having that as a backdrop towards the end of the year is a good thing. I'm not an investor in these companies. As you talked about, we get Schedule 3. We still got months. Things are so slow, and I just don't. My style, it's just told me time and time again, don't hold long term because and my skill set is better capitalizing on the volatility in the short term and not getting married to any of these stocks. So I will definitely be holding bigger picture. I will keep a core, but I'm not saying that I'm going to hold for 5 years because everybody told me what an idiot I was for selling the Canadian run up. And in 10 years, these are blue chip stocks, and those threads are still on Reddit with people telling me how stupid I was. But sell into euphoria is the lesson time and time again.
Isn't that crazy? And you look back at that.
Yeah,
it's true. It works every time. Look at crypto, look at cannabis stocks, look at everything else.
Yeah,
it works.
A lot of people
preservation of capital is key.
A lot of people that follow the markets for the first time get a dose of reality. Not all stocks go to the moon and just have that way. But yeah, major pullbacks. Good on you. But anyways, as usual, you mentioned one of your videos got one of your all-time highs. Which one was that on your YouTube channel?
Just highs in the last year. The one from this past weekend, I went more in depth and I gave a little fundamental synopsis and then went into the technicals. This weekend again will be more focused on the charts, but seeing an uptick in the views and the shares. And again, it's a battle right now between crypto and cannabis content, and it's wherever the analytics are is people telling us we want more of this, and that's what we follow. So do your part and click that button.
All right, to be guided in the right direction, follow Dan on X at ChartGuys as well. Go to chartguys.com, and then what's your YouTube channel as well, my friend?
There it is. ChartGuys, everything.
Well, appreciate the feedback. This is always great. And I know a lot of people that get back to us, and I appreciate the support and advice on click, smash that like button, leave comments, get more conversations going, but we appreciate that. And as usual, every Friday, always a pleasure having you on.
All right. See you next time.
All right. Thanks, man. That was good. That was helpful.
Yeah. It's less time intensive to hold a stock for 20 years though.
That's funny.
Held Apple for 20, but I hear if you look at the cycles, he's absolutely right.
Man, it just goes to show people only want to hear what they want to hear.
Called it time.
Yeah,
I'm hearing the music. Is it just
all right, folks? Mitch, cue up that music, buddy. Louder.
All right.
There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is PDR Traded Black Podcast. It's now time for the greatest part of the week. This is Mic Drop with Guap. Go ahead, buddy.
Yes. Greetings, Earthlings. It's Friday once again. We made it another week. So for today, a little something different. I'd like to cede all my time to my cannabis politician hero, Earl Blumenauer out of Oregon, for just saying the quiet part out loud. He's pissed off. He's frustrated. So are we. And Sabatino, a well-known cannabis Twitter personality with some video editing skills, cut together a rather funny video. This is satire, folks. It reminds me of MST3K back in the day. He's got Biden and Kamala, pronounced Kamala, guys, in the front. Giving a little commentary on Blumenauer's speech. So this is 4 minutes. They give me 5 minutes at the end of the show here. So this is 4 minutes, and we're going to try and not giggle too loud.
Listen to what Earl
where
Blumenauer
I'm
is saying,
going,
Joe.
I
He's
think,
very
on my next
disappointed.
question, because one area that I could not be more disappointed is what this administration has failed to do dealing with issues relating to cannabis.
Here we go,
The president
cannabis
has
again,
made
God damn it.
some minor adjustments. There have been a few people who have been pardoned. He commissioned
What the hell?
an
I
effort
freed
to
188,000
reschedule
marijuana
cannabis.
prisoners.
But Vice President Harris, just this week,
Quiet,
was
Joe, he's talking about
extraordinarily
me.
frustrated with the policies of her own administration, and she's right. I think it borders on
I love it.
political
This guy's the
malpractice
best.
and-
He speaks
and
the truth.
beyond.
I'm always right. He knows it.
This is an area that just breaks my heart. I am frustrated that the legislation we passed in 2022, which should have been fully implemented.
Well, I wasn't president in
months
2022, so
ago.
that's not on me.
We're still waiting. Mr. Secretary, this is an area that is profoundly affecting millions of people in the United States. We
Did
are
he say
denying
millions?
opportunities for research that almost everybody agrees could be transformative. And we're not in the forefront of this research. We outsource it to Israel or the
Holy shit, BB
Great
handles our
Britain.
marijuana
There's no
research?
excuse.
Let's make sure the
for
squad
our
doesn't
not
find out,
being in the forefront
or the
of
shit's
something
gonna hit the
that
fan.
is now legal for 97% of the American public. And when
That's
people have a chance
ridiculous.
to vote,
You
they
can't
vote
buy
to
weed in
change the
Texas,
policy.
and that's like 54% of the
I
American
am
population
hopeful.
right there.
That we can see some action following through on the legislation I passed, but more importantly, on the
This
things
is great.
that the American people want. Treatments are being delayed, research is being denied, honest entrepreneurs
Honest
are
my
being
ass.
caught up, and frankly, it's politically damaging to the administration.
Wait, what? Play that again. Play it again slower.
And frankly, it's politically damaging to the administration.
Holy
I would
shit.
hope that
Does
you
this
could
mother
work with us
work for
to
Trump?
be able to break the logjam, make the progress that the American people demand, and things that we could do in a matter of months. We've
Soon,
been
very
dancing
soon.
around this for as long as I've been in Congress. I've been talking to you throughout your tenure.
You're talking way too
I
much,
think
Earl.
it's time for the administration to actually follow through on some good intentions. Do you have any comments?
Thank God that's over. Xavier's
Congressman,
going to
I-
save
I
us.
do,
He's
and
on
I
our
will
side.
take back much of your message. I do want to make sure I recognize that the work that HHS has done was pretty far-reaching and quite some time
Schedule
ago.
5.
We were
Schedule
asked by
1.
the president back in 2022.
Wait a
to take
second.
a
Was I
close
president
look
in
at
2022?
cannabis. We delivered. We finished our work last year, and we submitted, as we were required by law, our findings based on the science. We don't get to make the final call. That's left to DEA to make. But
What is Ann
when it
waiting for?
comes
She's
to
making me look bad.
Cannabis.
Joe, you told her to wait until it was
President
strategically
asked us to
best
do
for our
something.
campaign.
We did
Change
it,
of
but I
plan.
will
Tell her
take
we
back
need
the
some
message
marijuana
to the
rescheduling news
administration
before the
for
weekend.
We are missing an opportunity for the American people. And frankly, if I were the president, may be interested in young people voting for me and being identified
This is
with
great.
change and reform.
If young people
think
don't
somebody
vote
ought
for
to
me,
light
they're
a
not
fire
young
somewhere.
people. They're
There are lots of
boomers.
things here that people, deal with formalities. I've watched this administration jump into action 4 years ago when there was an imperative to do so.
Yeah.
There's no excuse to continue dragging our feet on these formalities. The evidence is clear. The public wants it. There are millions of people who demand the products, and we are damaging a whole new sector of the economy.
Yeah.
I think there ought to be a sense of urgency to fix this so the vice president isn't confused.
Well said,
Thank you,
Earl.
and I appreciate your
Whoa.
consideration.
Earl said, hold my beer or my joint.
Whoa. Yeah,
And-
hold my blunt.
Yeah. By the way, I said Ed Blumenauer earlier. Apologies for getting that wrong. Earl. But yeah, wow.
Yeah, Ed Perlmutter. I don't know what I said, but yeah, Bloomy's my hero.
Sabs for president. That was an unbelievable video, but that's putting it, telling it like it is. And Percy Lex, I hear you. I'm rooting for shareholders of cannabis companies because they have gone through some of the worst losses in the history of the stock market. The government needs to stop making headlines for votes. And that is the truth. And Earl was on his game today. Don had nothing but applause for his speech, but you could tell did he look pissed? I think he's just frustrated, but he got his point across. And that's what every single person who's been following this space for quite some time couldn't have said it any better than that.
Everyone's frustrated. I mean, it's literally time to get shit done.
Yeah. What were we going to say, Guap?
No, I just think Bloomy's a champ. He's been a champion out of Oregon for years for cannabis and other substances. I don't know. When I saw the original clip, I was applauding, and then Sab's satirical take was
nice job, Sabs. We got to have him on the podcast.
I was crying. He just put out one today, actually, based on a tweet suggestion. I said he should have a video of Biden telling Pelosi that rescheduling was coming and Pelosi buying MSOS calls, and he just put it out today. So who knows? Maybe next Friday we'll play that one. It's a little shorter, but it's hilarious. He got in trouble though with one of them.
Happy Burns writes, I believe this is my favorite video from Sab so far. This is insane.
Yeah.
It was. All right, gents, this has been a great show here on a Friday as we wrap things up for the week. We'll be having a video that we'll push out on Sunday evening as well, just a recap of the week as we dive into one specific topic. If there's any topic that you want us to cover off for our show on Sunday, please let us know, and we will dive into that. But all in all, for hopefully our viewers that follow the SNDL stock, hope we provide you with enough coverage, as well as highlighted some of the companies that will benefit from Germany. And Dan, the chart man, really outlining to us as to what he's watching here in the immediate term, both in the Canadian players and the American players. As usual, as per what Dan said, the more comments, the more likes that we get, this has a greater chance of actually growing within YouTube's algorithm. So please smash that like button, subscribe to our channel. We much appreciate your support as we grow this, community. And lastly, what a week it's been for our head of research, Bill McNarland, the amount of research reports that he's been doing and an extensive index for the cannabis space. Again, log on to thedalesreport.com, or Mitch, if you can actually provide that link to subscribe to our baked in newsletter, that would be appreciated. Again, we're providing all this information for you, the everyday investor, to understand, so it's benefiting you and not the brokerage firms. So I hope that helps, and I hope you appreciate some of the feedback we're providing you guys. Gents, enjoy the rest of your day. This has been good, and we'll see you on Monday. If we get any late breaking news from Washington, we'll be back on here for a live stream. I hope we're back here.
Yeah, Monday.
Good job, buddy.
Thanks, man. Moving hour for president.
Moving hour. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.